Blood clung to Luna's dark fur as she delivered her fourth cub, her massive body trembling with exhaustion. Dr. Thomas Mitchell pressed closer to the observation window, his experienced eyes locked on the struggling black bear. In 20 years of wildlife medicine, he had never witnessed a bear successfully delivering this many cubs. But Luna wasn't done. Her body tensed again, and the fifth cub emerged into the dim morning light of the Montana Wildlife Recovery Center. 5 cubs. The number alone sent waves of excitement through the wildlife medical community. Dr. Mitchell watched as Luna tenderly cleaned each tiny form, her enormous tongue gently rousing them to life. The cubs were remarkably robust for a multiple birth, each one wriggling with healthy vigor as they sought their mother's warmth. This should have been the end of the story, a remarkable conclusion, worthy of scientific journals and wildlife documentaries. 5 healthy cubs from a single mother was a feat that would make headlines across the country. Luna had arrived at the sanctuary 4 months earlier, her powerful frame concealing a precious secret. The initial ultrasound had revealed multiple cubs, astonishing the sanctuary staff. Even then, something about the grainy images had unsettled Dr. Mitchell. He had performed countless ultrasounds on pregnant bears, but Luna's scans had seemed different somehow. At the time, he dismissed his unease, focusing instead on the extraordinary number of cubs she carried. As autumn painted the Montana wilderness in brilliant golds and deep reds, Luna's behavior grew increasingly unusual. Her 800-pound body moved with restless energy as she prepared her birthing den. The sanctuary staff monitored her with growing anticipation, their sophisticated equipment tracking every change in her condition. Dr. Mitchell spent extra hours reviewing the data, unable to shake the feeling that they were about to witness something unprecedented. The morning of the birth arrived with an electricity in the air that set every nerve on edge. Luna's distressed growls echoed through the observation room as Dr. Mitchell gathered his team. The first cub arrived as sunrise painted the sky in vivid oranges and pinks. Within hours, 4 more cubs followed, each one defying the usual complications of multiple births. The observation room filled with quiet celebration as the 5th cub took its first breath. Dr. Mitchell began his preliminary notes, documenting what he assumed would be one of the most successful multiple bear births in the sanctuary's history. His pen moved across the page with practiced efficiency, recording weights, times, and vital signs. Everything about the birth had gone perfectly, almost too perfectly. Looking back later, he would recognize that perfection as nature's way of setting the stage for what came next. Luna suddenly stopped cleaning her cubs. Her massive body tensed, and her breathing shifted back to the unmistakable rhythm of active labor. Dr. Mitchell's pen froze mid-sentence. 20 years of experience told him this was impossible. They had witnessed 5 cubs being born. They had documented 5 cubs. Every textbook, every research paper, every scrap of scientific knowledge said this birth was complete. But Luna's body told a different story. Dr. Mitchell abandoned his notes, moving closer to the observation window. The 5 cubs lay nestled against Luna's warm fur, all accounted for, all breathing normally. Yet the sophisticated monitoring equipment confirmed what his eyes were telling him. The contraction patterns displayed on the screens matched active labor, not the gentle afterbirth process he had witnessed hundreds of times before. "This is impossible," he whispered, his coffee cup forgotten on the edge of the observation desk. The other team members fell silent, their eyes fixed on Luna's massive form. The morning light illuminated every detail of the unfolding scene. 5 cubs. They had counted 5 cubs. They had documented 5 cubs. But Luna's powerful muscles were rippling with unmistakable contractions. The sanctuary's most experienced wildlife nurse, Sarah Collins, double-checked the monitoring equipment. "These are full labor contractions, Doctor." "Mitchell," she confirmed, her voice tight with tension. "Just like the ones before the other cubs. But that's not possible. Black bears don't have 6 cubs. They just don't." Dr. Mitchell's hands trembled slightly as he adjusted the cameras. Whatever was happening needed to be thoroughly documented. Without proper evidence, no one would believe what they were about to witness. His mind raced through everything he knew about bear reproduction. In rare cases, bears could deliver cubs with short delays between them. But this was different. The 5 cubs had all been born hours ago. This was something else entirely. Luna's distressed growls grew louder, echoing through the observation room. Her massive body shifted, maternal instinct driving her to protect her 5 cubs, even as she prepared to deliver something else. The monitoring equipment beeped steadily, recording vital signs that should have been impossible at this stage of birth. The tension in the room mounted as Luna's contractions intensified. Dr. Mitchell pressed his face against the glass, his scientific mind struggling to process what he was seeing. In all his years of wildlife medicine, nothing had prepared him for this moment. The other team members crowded behind him, their clipboards and tablets forgotten as they watched history unfold. Luna's powerful body tensed one final time. What emerged next caused Dr. Mitchell's coffee cup to slip from his suddenly numb fingers. The ceramics shattered against the floor, the sound breaking the stunned silence in the observation room. But no one turned to look. Every eye remained fixed on what had just appeared in Luna's enclosure. The veteran veterinarian's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. His legs felt weak, forcing him to grip the window ledge for support. Behind him, he heard Sarah gasp, followed by the clatter of her tablet hitting the floor. What lay before them defied everything known about bear reproduction, everything known about nature itself. Luna turned her massive head toward her new arrival, her gentle tongue reaching out to clean what could not exist. Dr. Mitchell fought the urge to rub his eyes, to somehow clear away what must surely be a hallucination, but the image remained, becoming clearer with each passing second as Luna cleaned her newest cub. Time seemed to freeze in the observation room as Luna revealed what had emerged after her 5 cubs. Through the glass, Dr. Mitchell stared at something that would challenge the foundations of wildlife medicine. The 6th cub lay before them, but its appearance triggered an instinctive step backward from every person in the room. This was no ordinary bear cub. First, there was its size. While the 5 previous cubs displayed normal newborn proportions, this cub was nearly twice their size. Its wet fur gleamed under the observation lights, revealing a coloring that sent shockwaves through the medical team. Instead of the expected black fur of an American black bear, this cub's coat showed distinct patches of silver white, creating a pattern never before documented in Ursine history. As Luna cleaned her extraordinary offspring, more impossible features emerged. The cub's facial structure differed dramatically from its siblings. Its muzzle was shorter, more refined, and most shocking of all, its partially opened eyes gleamed with an unusual amber color. Newborn bear cubs typically keep their eyes closed for weeks after birth, but this cub seemed to be defying every known rule of bear development. "Get me genetic specialists on the line immediately," Dr. Mitchell ordered, his voice barely above a whisper. "And secure every piece of footage we have. No one would believe this without evidence." His hands shook as he reached for his phone, nearly dropping it as the cub let out a cry unlike anything he had ever heard from a newborn bear. The sound echoed through the observation room, a haunting call that seemed to combine the typical mewling of a bear cub with something entirely foreign. The 6th cub's movements provided another shock. While its siblings showed the typical uncoordinated squirming of newborns, this cub displayed remarkable muscle control. Within minutes of birth, it had already begun making deliberate movements toward its mother, its oversized paws showing distinct markings that resembled ancient cave paintings of mythical creatures. Luna's reaction to her unusual offspring added another layer of mystery. Despite the obvious differences, she showed no rejection behavior. Instead, she seemed to pay special attention to the 6th cub, positioning it carefully among its siblings. The 5 normal cubs, all with their expected black fur and typical newborn characteristics, clustered around their unusual sibling as if they sensed nothing out of the ordinary. Dr. Mitchell grabbed his medical journal, his pen flying across the pages as he documented every impossible detail. The cub's estimated weight, far beyond normal parameters, the distinctive markings that seemed to shimmer in the morning light, the advanced development that defied everything known about bear cub growth patterns. Each observation felt more implausible than the last. Sarah Collins, who had assisted with bear births for over 15 years, finally found her voice. "Doctor," she whispered, "look at its paws." Dr. Mitchell followed her pointing finger, and his breath caught in his throat. The cub's paw pads showed a complex pattern of markings that formed what appeared to be naturally occurring symbols, something never before seen in any bear species. The implications of what they were witnessing began to sink in. This wasn't just an unusual birth or a rare genetic mutation. This was something that would force the scientific community to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about wildlife biology. The sixth cub represented a biological impossibility that somehow existed right before their eyes. Word of the extraordinary birth spread through the sanctuary like wildfire. Within hours, the observation room filled with wildlife experts from neighboring facilities, each one drawn by reports of something unprecedented. Dr. Mitchell found himself explaining the sequence of events repeatedly, yet each retelling felt as unbelievable as the first. After the 5 normal cubs, we thought it was over, he explained to Dr. Rachel Wang, a leading expert in bear genetics who had flown in from Seattle. Then Luna delivered something that defies explanation. He gestured toward the observation window, where the 6th cub continued to display behaviors that shouldn't be possible in a newborn. The unusual cub had already begun displaying signs of awareness that typically took weeks to develop in bear cubs. While its 5 siblings nursed and slept as normal newborns should, the 6th cub showed unprecedented alertness. Its amber eyes, which should have remained closed for weeks, tracked movement in the observation room. The silver-white markings on its fur seemed to shift and gleam under the sanctuary lights, creating patterns that mesmerized observers. Laboratory results from the initial health screenings only deepened the mystery. The cub's blood work revealed characteristics never before seen in Ursine species. Its body temperature ran several degrees higher than its siblings, yet showed no signs of fever or distress. Most puzzling were the readings from its heart, which displayed a rhythm that seemed impossible for its size and age. Luna's maternal behavior continued to fascinate the medical team. She appeared to understand that her 6th cub required special attention, often positioning herself to shield it from direct observation. When the cub made its unusual vocalizations, a sound that blended typical bear cub cries with something hauntingly different, Luna responded with a unique rumbling call that she used for no other cub. The genetic implications alone will take years to understand, Dr. Wang commented, her eyes fixed on the family group. If what you're telling me is accurate, this cub represents something entirely new in Ursine evolution. She paused, watching as the unusual cub demonstrated another impossibly coordinated movement. The real question is, where did these traits come from? By evening, the sanctuary had implemented extraordinary security measures. News agencies were already gathering at the gates, drawn by whispered rumors of something remarkable in the bear enclosure. Dr. Mitchell had received calls from wildlife centers across the country, each one struggling to believe his account until they saw the video evidence. The footage of the birth and the cub's unique characteristics had been secured in multiple locations. Dr. Mitchell knew the scientific community would demand irrefutable proof of every claim. The combination of size, coloring, advanced development, and mysterious markings would challenge researchers for years to come. As night fell over the Montana Wildlife Recovery Center, the extraordinary family settled into their first evening together. The 5 normal cubs slept peacefully against their mother's warm fur, but their remarkable sibling remained alertly aware of its surroundings. The silver-white markings on its coat seemed to glow softly in the dim light of the nighttime observation equipment, creating an almost ethereal effect that left the night staff mesmerized. Under the infrared cameras, the mysterious symbols on its paws pulsed with an unexplainable luminescence. Dr. Mitchell sat in his office, surrounded by preliminary reports and documentation from the day's events. His computer screen displayed dozens of emails from wildlife research institutions around the world, each one requesting more information about the unprecedented birth. Leading geneticists from 3 continents had already booked flights to Montana, eager to witness firsthand what many were calling the most significant wildlife discovery of the century. The video footage had been carefully backed up to secure servers, preserving evidence of something that many would otherwise refuse to believe. In all my years of wildlife medicine, he wrote in his official report, nothing could have prepared me for what emerged after those 5 cubs. What we witness today challenges our entire understanding of ursine genetics and natural development. His fingers hesitated over the keyboard as he searched for words to describe the impossible creature that had emerged last from Luna's extraordinary delivery. Even the most technical, scientific language seemed inadequate to capture the magnitude of what they had witnessed. The sanctuary's security teams reported growing crowds at the facility's gates. News of something unusual had leaked, drawing media attention from across the state. Local television crews had already set up their equipment, broadcasting live updates about rumors of an unprecedented wildlife event. Dr. Mitchell knew they couldn't keep this discovery secret for long, nor should they. What they had witnessed would change wildlife medicine forever, opening new chapters in scientific research and understanding. Luna seemed unaware of the commotion her remarkable delivery had caused. She continued to care for all 6 cubs with equal devotion, though her interactions with the unusual last-born displayed subtle differences. The way she positioned herself to shield it from view, the unique vocalizations they shared, suggested an understanding of its special nature. The medical team had recorded over 20 distinct sounds between mother and unusual cub, a range of communication far exceeding normal bear interactions. As midnight approached, Dr. Mitchell made one final visit to the observation room. The unusual cub was awake, its amber eyes reflecting the soft red glow of the night vision cameras. Those eyes tracked his movement with an intelligence that shouldn't be possible in a newborn bear. The mysterious markings on its paws, resembling ancient symbols, seemed to pulse faintly in the darkness. Each time it moved, the patterns appeared to shift and flow across its fur, defying conventional understanding of mammalian coat patterns. "What are you?" he whispered through the glass. "Where did you come from?" The cub turned its head at the sound of his voice, displaying another impossible feat of coordination. Its 5 siblings slept peacefully, unaware that their unusual brother or sister had rewritten everything known about their species. The cub's response was a soft chirping sound, unlike anything ever documented in bear communication. Tomorrow would bring teams of researchers, endless questions, and the beginning of a scientific journey that would last for years. Genetics experts would analyze every aspect of this remarkable creature. Evolutionary biologists would debate its significance. Conservationists would argue about its implications for wildlife protection. But for now, in the quiet hours of this remarkable night, Dr. Mitchell simply watched the impossible creature that had emerged after those 5 cubs. The events of this day would be debated, studied, and discussed in wildlife medicine for generations to come. But no one who witnessed the birth would ever forget the moment when Luna, an ordinary black bear, delivered something extraordinary after her 5 cubs. Something that left even the most experienced veterinarian questioning everything he thought he knew about the natural world. As Dr. Mitchell made his final notes for the day, he realized that this was more than just an unusual birth. It was a reminder that nature still held mysteries beyond human understanding, waiting to be discovered in the most unexpected moments. Don't miss out on more incredible wildlife stories like Luna's extraordinary birth. If you're as fascinated by nature's remarkable moments as we are, subscribe to our YouTube channel for weekly doses of amazing animal discoveries, unexpected miracles, and heartwarming tales from the wild. From incredible bear encounters to mysterious animal behaviors, we bring you professionally narrated stories that will leave you in awe of nature's wonders. Your support helps us continue sharing these remarkable wildlife stories. Let's explore the amazing world of animals together. Click subscribe below and become part of our wildlife-loving family today.